Hello and welcome to Video Revealed. I'm Colin Smith. Let's look at mysteries of the clipboard and why Adobe applications have extra special clipboard features. It seems something as simple as copy and paste is not as easy to understand for some new users. And I remember being at a large news organization a few years ago, and it occurred to me that one of the editors did not realize when you copied something, it stayed in the clipboard. They thought if you pasted it once, you actually removed it from memory. That's not true. All right, so what is a clipboard? A clipboard is a universal piece of memory in your computer. So when you copy something, it's in that memory until you shut down your computer. And there are applications that you can use that will save multiple clipboards and all of that stuff. I'm not talking about that, just the regular clipboard stuff. If something is in the clipboard, it's going to stay there until it's replaced. It gets replaced by a new copy operation. Now, this gets a little bit more complicated when we're inside Adobe applications because they can contain proprietary information. But the bottom line is, when you copy something, you can paste it. When you cut something, it does the same operation as copying, but it deletes it out of memory. Google seems to think this is slightly different. Some of their applications cut does not remove it, but way back in the day when this was invented and why they're beside each other, why X, C, and V, they were just easy and close on the keyboard. So cut, copy, and paste. We're not going to get into cut too much, but just copy and paste. And it's Command C to copy on the Mac and Command V to paste, Control C and Control V on Windows. It's the same in every freaking application. So I will not be showing you where they are. They're in the edit menu, or you can right click. But from now on, I'll just call it copy and paste. So here's the simplest way to demonstrate this. In a text editor, here we go. So some text here, select it and copy it. And now when I paste, every time I paste, it's there. So it's in the memory of the computer. In fact, if we go to Google Docs, I'll set my cursor and I'll paste some text here. So it showed up right in there. So that is now in memory until I copy something different. It's also in memory and pasteable in something that you can paste text into. If an application is not, like if I'm looking at a media player, I can't paste that text in there. But if it was the description of the video in a media player, you might be able to do that. So in a simple text editor like this, there's no formatting involved. So it's just text information. But you can also have formatting information. So back here in Google Docs, this is not only text, but it's also got formatting information. But what makes this formatting a little bit more difficult to deal with is Google Docs can use local fonts, but in this example, this is one of their templates. It's actually using fonts on the web because you have to use Google Docs in a browser. Those fonts are being drawn in from the web. So if I go to File, New, and create a new document, let's go back to here. I'll copy that. Watch what happens when I paste that in. You see how for a second it wasn't the right font and then it was the font? That's because that font information was connected to the online font and redrawn a moment later. So that's important because if you are looking at this and now you want to go to something like InDesign and you want to paste that in, that's what you'll get. So it won't be pasting that information in because InDesign is not connected to the same web server. So did I get the text in? Yes. Did I get the formatting in? No. You can look at the format and see this is Economica, but chances are that font is only available through Google docs to download, but there's many other fonts that you can use. So that's just simply copying text and using it. Now let's go to Photoshop with that same information in it and paste it. And when I paste it, nothing happens. I need to grab the type tool, click with the type tool, and paste it. And you can see it's using the last formatting that I had. So again, that formatting is not coming over from Google Docs, but the text still came over. So that text is in memory and I can use that very easily. So what about Premiere Pro? So let's go to Premiere Pro and I have to create some text. So I'll use the type tool, click and paste. So again, the text comes in, the formatting doesn't. But again, I could change that formatting. This is a useful one. Here's why I love this in Premiere Pro. Because you don't spell someone's name wrong. If someone has sent you lower third names of a bunch of people, and maybe some of those names can easily be misspelled, this way you're not looking at it and trying to type. You're copying and pasting, copying and pasting. So if someone made a mistake, it's not you because you copied and pasted that in. Okay, let's keep going. This gets deeper, okay? Here's something in Photoshop I really like. I'm going to copy this image and I'll go back to Photoshop. And if I paste in this document here, it's going to paste this as another layer. Well, that's good. But what if I want to not only paste in Photoshop, but I want a document the exact size of what I have in the clipboard? Photoshop's really smart. It not only knows that there's an image in the clipboard, it knows the size of that image. So I don't even have to know. If I go to File, New, this dimension here is what's in the clipboard. And you can see right here, document type, clipboard, click OK, paste, boom. I love that because I never have to know that exact size. That's good. And of course, now I could save this and it's a local file. Okay. Let's go look at Illustrator. Don't be afraid of Illustrator. I have a link to a great videographer tutorial for using Illustrator at the end of this. This makes sense. I want to show you how now Adobe elevates the clipboard in Illustrator in a great way. So in the Edit menu, Preferences, you can see there's a special setting for file handling and clipboard. And you can see the clipboard can contain more than just simple text information. It can include SVG, Scalable Vector Graphics, AICB, Adobe Illustrator on the clipboard. Wow, this is cool. That means I can take this, which is vector drawing. This is not an image. This is made up of shapes. If I copy this and go back to Photoshop and paste, Photoshop also has an amazing way to work. For instance, it can work as a smart object. And I can add this to my current library. Click OK, and you'll see this shows up as a smart object. The reason this is great is I can scale this up and never have jagged edges. This is another reason why I urge videographers to start to learn at the very basic level Illustrator file handling. Because if somebody gives you something and it happens to be a vector object, SVG, EPS, Illustrator file, you can use that easy. Look at that. That is a beautiful file that I can resize anytime and never have to worry about jagged edges or any of that. So that's a smart object, and you'll see that it's a smart object with that icon. If I double click on that, it actually loads this artwork back into Illustrator, make a change in Illustrator, and it updates in here. That's great, but I can't do raster kinds of things that I might want to do or paint something out of it. So I'm going to paste again. Remember, whatever I'm holding in my memory is still there. So paste again gives me the same option. Paste it as pixels, paste it as a path, paste it as a shape layer. None of these are right or wrong. They're just different uses. If you want to bring it in as pixels, click OK. You could still resize this, but now it's pixels. So if I resize this even more, now you'll see it's starting to have the fuzzy edges. Okay? Let's paste this again, paste it as a path, click OK. It's now a path. Where did it go? That path is in my paths right here. This is great for creating masks. Maybe you've got a very complicated shape that's already part of artwork somewhere else. Remember, you could even open a PDF inside Illustrator. If it's vector art, you can copy it out of a PDF from Illustrator, put it in the clipboard, go to Photoshop, paste it in as a mask. Dude, imagine if this was an incredibly complicated logo and somebody said, actually, we would like a shape to do this and that and all the, you don't have to draw any of that. You're just taking it out of something, which again could be the company's PDF. So there is a work path. By the way, work paths that have an italic name, double click on them and hit enter to save them. Italic means the next time you paste in or use another work path, it's going to delete it. So you want to save that. All right, so that's another way to work with it. And then the last way is as a shape layer. And this is like using any kind of shape layer inside, Photoshop. And the color comes from this, your color over here. So I could now grab a different color. And with a shape layer, now you can start to use things like the layer effects. So if I want to use a bevel and emboss on this, now I can create something that looks more like coffee beans. All of this came from the clipboard from Illustrator. All right, let's go back into Premiere Pro and I'll show you what's going on in there. So in Premiere Pro, I've got a video, and in Illustrator, I've got a logo. Now, sure, I can just import the logo as a .ai Illustrator file, drop it into Premiere Pro, and I've got a static logo. But what if I wanted the little heat lines coming out of the top? I want them animated. Well, I want to do this in After Effects. And I actually want to, let's say that you're done in Premiere Pro. This particular clip is going to require more work in After Effects. So normally somebody would go to After Effects, create a comp, and then import the clip, and then import this in. Well, before we do that, I'm going to select all of this and copy it. So now the vector artwork, remember that's a bunch of lines, all of that math is in the clipboard. Premiere Pro unfortunately doesn't understand this. I really wish it did, but After Effects really does. By the way, so does Photoshop, so does InDesign. But let's go to After Effects. And also, I don't want you to be scared of After Effects. So down here at the bottom, I'll create a new comp. This is the thing that trips people up the most. New comp, and I'm just going to make this HD size. So you have to have a comp created. It's like having a project created. After Effects doesn't know where you're pasting things. So if I just paste now, nothing happens because there's nothing to paste to. So the second step is to make something. And in the layer menu, new, just make a new solid and click OK. This is the same size as the whole comp. Now when I paste this in, it's pasted it in as a mask. And you can see all the mask pieces right there. And the color of this is the color that happens to be of that shape. So that's cool, but I also want to show you that you can convert. So if we do bring in that same coffee logo and we flatten that, and instead of this, if we bring that in, that of course is linked to the Illustrator file, which is a good way to work. The Illustrator file updates and this updates. But if I want to now manipulate this in here, what I can do is make sure that's selected in the layer menu, create shapes from a vector layer, and After Effects is really smart. Watch what happens. It turns off the Illustrator file, which we don't even need anymore. And it now made these out of shapes. So in the previous version, it made them out of masks. So we had a color with a bunch of masks. Here we actually have the shapes. They're all vector, But if we go to, I believe it's number 8, 9, 10, and 11. So I'm getting rid of those squiggly lines coming out of the top of the coffee cup. I want those to animate. So I could copy and paste these here, but let's imagine that you have something in Illustrator. Again, maybe you brought this in from a PDF. You've got vector data that you want to use as a mask or a shape or as path data, and I want to animate that in here. Now I'll go back to Illustrator, and I just want those shapes. So in the object menu, I'll ungroup those. And I'm going to select those shapes and copy that. Back to After Effects. And now I'll create another solid. And I'll call this Heat. Again, make it the same size, the same color. There's an eyedropper here, so I could use that to get the same color. And when you do that, it covers everything up because it's a large solid layer. But remember, I've got my clipboard, so when I paste that in, it pastes it in. Now the location is based on the center of the object, so it's off a little bit. But if I tap the P key and show the position, I could move this manually by dragging it on there, but I'm just going to use this. And now I'm going to make sure that's selected, and I'll grab an effect in the Distort catalog category, Wave Warp, and I played around with this a little bit. So if I make it 12, and 50, and I warp it 0 degrees, so straight up, and if I pin it to the bottom edge, here's what you get. So now I've got those wiggly lines. I didn't have to draw anything at all. I simply copied the data that was already there from a logo that I got. By the way, this logo in the company that does this, there's a link in the description to take you to that. Tons of great logos. So now I've got to bring in, I'm going to grab another comp. And remember that video inside Premiere Pro? Well, let's go back to Premiere Pro, and I'll select this video, copy it, go back to After Effects, paste it in. Now that video is here, and I'll go to a more flattering spot here. I'll grab the other comp, and I'm notorious for not naming my comps. So I'll drag that second comp in. There it is. And we'll look at the position and scale information. Drag that over there. Whoops, drag that down. Hit the space bar. Now I've got my animated logo over top of my video. All done in a matter of moments. So obviously this was rushed. This is not meant to be a step-by-step thing for you to follow because you would have to have the exact same assets. But the idea is the clipboard is way more powerful in Adobe applications. So I think you should take advantage of this. And I also really want you to start looking at Illustrator. It can be the thing that differentiates you from other videographers. So you don't have to count on someone else fixing or giving you the right graphics. Anything that you ask for from a client should always be a vector object, SVG, EPS, .ai for Illustrator file. And from there, you can open it up and start using all the pieces in your productions and make them look super high quality. Because remember, this is vector. I could now fly into the logo. I could zoom the logo up, the coffee cup right into the little heat lines and then put it down in the corner. I mean, it opens up so many avenues for something creative. All right, there you go. If you're new to Video Revealed and you found this informative, take a moment to subscribe. You want to support us more, you can do that through PayPal. There's a link in the description and one on the front of the channel. Thanks to all of our wonderful PayPal donors. We love you. Till next time, I'm Colin Smith, and it's my job to drag you kicking and screaming to use the tools that you have already available.